You asked, so I must deliver. Well, you're in luck, because I am not done with these guys. So this time around, I'm doing something a little different. I'm doing screencap redraws. See, the thing is, when I said I wasn't done with these guys, I meant it. I have a whole reboot continuation fic AU thingy I'm working on for the Creepy Crew, because apparently that's what the people really want. Which is fortunate for me, seeing as I have brainworms for this comic years after the fact, even after the YouTube channel it was on was straight up deleted. This ride ain't over till I say it's over. But I digress. So basically, I have a whole bunch of screen caps from the Creepy Crew, and I'm going to pick out the ones that I really, really like, or that'll force me to push my limits on what I'm capable of drawing, and I'm going to redraw them as if they were a part of an animated series and not a webcomic made in a storyboard creator meant specifically for school projects, because that's kind of what Bitstrips really was. Anyway, I may end up committing wanton abuse of rulers and 3D models in the process because I suck at perspective imposing, but it's whatever. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out as we go along. We'll figure out what we're doing. Okay, basic rundown's over. We got it. We know what we're doing. All right, let's get started. Okay, so I decided I was going to start with this screenshot right here. This takes place shortly after Lady accidentally kills Red Croft with demonic superpowers she didn't know she had. What I wanted to do was make the camera angle a bit more dynamic and push the characters' acting a bit further with their body language and expressions. This drawing was rough. I'm not that great at drawing anything other than people, and I'm not too good with certain poses and camera angles, which will become clearer as the drawing progresses. I ended up giving up and pretty much tracing over 3D models from Clip Studios' asset store. In before there's like 13 different call-out posts about me tracing when I literally just drew over stuff from the asset store. Never mind. That said, this was pretty fun. What I decided to do was have Lady looking down at her hands with an expression of shock and horror, while Iris basically freaks out. So I had Iris's pose be a bit more open than it was in the original screenshot, and I made her facial expression more exaggerated. I also added burns to Lady's hands for personal headcanon reasons. In short, I like to think when she first started using her powers, she ended up burning the palms of her hands, as she is a human and is not built for chucking around hellfire like softballs. I also deviated a bit from past Lady's canon design by giving her short hair and making her look a bit younger, as the model for her 12-year-old self was, in comic, the same as the model used for the present day. There isn't much else to say here. I took every shortcut I could with a background, and once I was done with each part of the piece, I merged all of the layers, played around with correction layers, added chromatic aberration, and struggled to add a grainy filter. First redraw is done, and I gotta say it turned out better than I expected. I'll be honest, my expectations were pretty low because of how much I was struggling, but, I'm actually pretty happy with how this turned out. Anyway, on to the next one. Now for this next one, I'm going to redraw a scene from episode 6, in which Ben is having a flashback to his attempt to save Lou's life. So here's what I have to work with. Lady's on the verge of an emotional breakdown, Ben's desperately trying to make his healing powers do what he wants, despite the fact he's not even on screen, and Lou is flatlining on the floor. So I'm going to, 1, put Ben in frame, 2, adjust the staging, and 3, mostly just emphasize 1. Lady already had her angsty moment. Let's give Ben a little love, shall we? Now, I took a slightly different approach to this one, which is to say that this could be a standalone drawing rather than a screen cap redraw, because it is wildly different from the original. I wanted to make Ben the focus of this drawing, as this is his memory of the incident. So the drawing is a close-up of Ben as he attempts to heal Lou. The biggest thing I want to note here is the decided lack of a musical instrument despite the whole Song of Healing thing. This is another headcanon-related change. See, my personal interpretation, based on the fact that the Song of Healing is supposed to release trapped souls, not heal the body, is that Ben has healing powers, and that he mainly channels them through music. Basically, the Song of Healing is his focus. What I'm getting at is that he could, if need be, forego using the song and just use his powers directly, which is what's going on here. I had some fun with drawing the magic-y elements in this piece, despite the fact that I had no clue what I was doing. It's a lot of gradients and layer effects stacked on top of each other, as well as overuse of the Gaussian blur tool, but I'd say the end result looks pretty cool. The background is very basic. It's just a gray on black gradient, so that the magic-y elements really pop, and, they're actually visible, because with a lighter background, you wouldn't be able to see them. Even if this isn't very faithful to the original, I'd say that it turned out well. On to the next piece. Our third screen cap is from one of the Creepy Crew's many flashbacks. Specifically, it's Chikura's death scene, and let me tell you, I was really excited to do this one because I get to show off my redesign for her. Now see, this in itself is a fairly interesting scene, if not for Bitstrips having a bad case of having no good options for camera angles. You would think so that'd be integral to a storyboard making program. Jesus Christ. So all I really wanted to do was change the camera angle. So, what I'm doing is having Chikura, bleeding out on the ground, as Emma looks on in what is probably either grim determination or some kind of smug joy. Either way. So, that means I get to show you what I did with Chikura's design. So, originally, her design was pretty bare bones. You saw it in the screen cap. It's So now her color scheme consists of pink, red, and purple. She has horns, wings, and a tail to better indicate that she is, a demon, and her crop top and shorts were changed to a dress. And I think she looks pretty darn cool. I wanted it to be more clear that she was, dying. So we have the massive friggin' wound in her stomach, and she's bleeding from the mouth. What Emma did to her, I do not know, but it probably hurt. I decided last minute to add a pool of blood where she's kneeling. Emma, meanwhile, stands in the foreground with her back to the camera, which affected how I had to shade her. The background is very simple. It's the same red to yellow gradient as in the original because I really couldn't think of a good setting for this drawing. Drawing number 3 is done. On to number 4. Now, for this screen cap, we have a pretty interesting setup. Lou has captured Lady, Jeff, Ben, and, this guy over here. I think that's Robert the Haunted Doll. I think. And reveals that he's been working for the SCP Foundation the entire time. And at this scene in particular, after some back and forth between basically all 5 of the characters, Ben has managed to free himself and the others, and they are fully prepared to beat his ass. Unfortunately, the screen cap itself looks bad. In all honesty, due probably to technical limitations. There weren't very many options for camera angles and staging in Bitstrips, so what we get is this. Well, let's see what we can do to spice this one up, shall we? Funny thing about this screen cap, I've actually redrawn it once before, back in, I want to say 2019. This was my attempt then. It's garbage. So I'm actually doing a redraw of a redraw. So the staging is very similar, but I tried to put more effort into the background, and I actually know how to draw. So what we have is Lady, Jeff, and Ben standing over Lou, all fully prepared to annihilate him. Where is Robert, you may ask? Well, I meant to have him hiding behind Ben, as he is in the first version of this drawing, but, I forgot to put him in. Now, I must have bonked my head at some point, or maybe I was looking at the first version of this too long, because Jeff's proportions turned out whack. At least it's mostly hidden by Lou's head. A major thing I was trying to do was exaggerate each character's posing and expression to kind of give a better idea of what's going on. So I have Lady, snarling like an angry pit bull, poised to deck Lou, Jeff standing over Lou with a psychotic grin, knife in hand, and Ben just smirking at him with this air of superiority, which fits pretty well with the personality his Antichrist persona apparently canonically has, and is also well-deserved, given that he's the one that freed himself and his friends. As for the background, well, I tried. It ain't great, but it is something. I also made the whole drawing a bit darker and less saturated, added a bit of blur to Lou in the background so the focus is on the other 3, and added chromatic aberration and grainy filter as per usual. And there you have it, a somewhat improved version of a much older screen cap redraw. We're almost done. On to the 5th and final screen cap. And last but not least, our fifth screen cap. This shot is from Robster's debut in episode 2. Now, I actually kind of like this one as is, so I don't plan on making any particularly drastic changes. Most of what I wanted to do is just slightly adjust the camera angle and Robster's pose, as well as use my redesign for her. So what I did here was adjust the camera so that Robster is shown at a 3/4 angle and is in the left third of the canvas rather than being dead center head on. I also, as I said earlier, used my redesign for her and modified her pose somewhat so that now she is removing her hood as she speaks to Zelgo, thus obscuring most of her face. I added a shadow over the upper half of her face, so only one eye is visible, which I thought looked appropriately unsettling, given what she's like. The background is the same as it was in the original panel, a yellow and red gradient. I just played around a bit with correction layers in order to lower the overall brightness and up the contrast, so it was maybe a bit less boring to look at. Really, I have no idea what the inside of the crypt looks like, and I didn't really plan that out before I started, so yeah. Anyway, let's just move on. And done. I chose to end on a simpler piece because I've taken long enough making this video at this point. I did not want to keep people waiting any longer than they had to, so this is where we're ending off. Thanks for watching. This was my most ambitious video yet, not because of the length, I have made a longer video in the past, but because of how much frickin' editing went into this. In fact, I feel like some parts are over-edited. That said, if this is the kind of thing you like, then why not like this video to appease the YouTube algorithm gods? And if you really like this kind of thing, maybe subscribe while you're at it, ring the little bell, all that jazz, so you get notified when I make a new video. That way, you get more stuff like this, and I get that little bit of gratification knowing that people like my content, so it's a win-win situation. I have more videos like this planned, so I will see you all very soon. Bye!